everybody, so Futurama. This is a show that I was told to watch for a very long time. It is a show that I was kind of curious about and I didn't really know much about it. All I had heard was that there was a dog episode that was really sad, and apparently it has a really good ending, and overall it's just a very consistent, good adult animated cartoon. Now, I know that it's made by Matt Groening, or Groening, however the hell you pronounce his name, who made The Simpsons, obviously. I had never watched The Simpsons, but my friend Keaton had been showing me The Simpsons episodes for a while now, and I liked them overall. And so finally I was getting around and someone showed me the first couple episodes of Futurama, and I was like, I actually think I could get into this show. So I ended up watching the whole thing on my own. So I'm here now to rank all the seasons for you and just kind of take you on the pathway of my journey with this very popular, underrated show. Now don't worry, I'm not going to be spoiling the show in any way, so if you haven't seen Futurama, you can totally watch this video. Think of this as you're a friend of mine and I'm basically explaining to you my experience with Futurama and recommending it to you, because overall Futurama is a good show and I definitely understand why people love this show, and I totally understand why people say it's underrated, because my god, was this show messed with so much. You would think Fox, looking at Matt Groening, you know, the guy who created the biggest adult cartoon of all time, one of the biggest cartoons of all time, who basically saved their network, he comes to them with another idea. You'd think they would be like, oh hell yeah dude, yeah totally, make your show, we'll support you. No, they constantly threw hurdles at him and made it the most difficult experience in the world, and they never gave this show a chance, and it sucks. The show was canceled a couple times and it never really got its feet off the ground, but very underrated show, so right away I would recommend it. Let's get into the seasons. Quick note, my coloring system is listed like this. I know it kind of looks like a tier list system. I came up with this before tier lists ever became a thing, and it's kind of funny how tier lists have become a really popular thing now, so it's like, okay, all right, cool. But yeah, this is the way I rank things in general. Colors, just I like color, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So here we go. Season 1 of Futurama. Season 1 right off the bat is a solid start to the show. I was already having fun, and that's usually not very common. Usually it takes me a bit to get into a show. The pilot alone was actually fantastic. That episode hooked me right away, which was really good. Futurama also, I started noticing right away, would be a show that would have some continuation to the story. Like, sure, it is like an episodic format, but overall there is going to be an overarching story, and that's what I was told from the beginning. And I really like the way that all the characters are set up and the relationships, and it's funny and it's clever, and there's just a lot going on here. At the same time, it's not getting too deep yet. I feel like some of the wacky sci-fi concepts that they came up with, they didn't explore enough, you know, which is just maybe a personal taste for me. I do enjoy really wacky sci-fi concepts and just seeing how far you can explore it. And right away with season 1, it's fun, but not quite enough of that yet. I feel like it was more focused on just funny characters, funny dialogue, which is still good, but overall, like, not my favorite thing. Also, no real episodes stood out to me a whole lot. No episodes did I finish and go, oh my god, that was an amazing episode, I want to watch that one again. Like, even the pilot, which like I said, I like that one a lot. Maybe now that I finish the show and I rewatch it in a couple years, maybe I'll think, oh no, the pilot was fantastic, especially because the pilot is referenced throughout the series a ton of times. But overall though, other than that episode and like Fry in the Slurm Factory, no real episodes stood out to me as like, oh, that was fantastic, I gotta show someone that, even if they don't know Futurama. Either way, solid start to a show, so you probably can already tell I'm gonna give season 1 of Futurama a green. Moving on to season 2, I would describe season 2 as basically a continuation of season 1, but a little bit better. They got all of the setup done, but now they have to flesh things out more. They have to explore their side characters more. So characters like Hermes or Amy, or my personal favorite, Dr. Zoidberg, getting their own special episodes outside of just the main core 3 of Fry, Leela, and Bender. And that was really cool, just to see them expand their universe a bit more, and just having a little bit more fun, you know, trying to get more comfortable. You know, this is still a show that's really figuring itself out, but season 2 I would say is like the most like regular Futurama. Again, no real episodes stand out to me in any way, and also, by the way, with both of these seasons, there's no episodes that I dislike either. There are a couple episodes here and there that I'm like, all right, that was okay, you know, I give them like yellow episodes, but you know, nothing in the orange category, nothing in the red category, so don't worry, there's no bad episodes at all. And I don't really think anyone would say that there are bad episodes in the early seasons of Futurama. But yeah, season 2 overall, just kind of you know, a little bit better than season 1, but not better enough for it to be in a different category, so I am going to give season 2 of Futurama a green. Moving on to season 3. Now, I also look up, the seasons ranked before I watch the show, especially if I'm getting into it, and I just kind of see, like, what's the general consensus online. Like, I try not to look up the best episodes, especially IMDb rankings. I find those to be a little misleading sometimes, especially because, my personal opinion, a lot of IMDb rankings are really just based on a moment in an episode or the way an episode ends. An episode will have a 9.5 because its ending is amazing, but like when you watch the episode's actually just, pretty good, and then the ending's amazing. And in my opinion, that's not fair. You can have an episode that's good and then amazing ending. That doesn't make the episode amazing. So anyway, that's a little bit of a sidebar, but yeah. So season 3 was generally considered one of the best seasons of Futurama based on all the lists that I would find. It was between 3 and 4 in terms of which was the best season. And so my expectations were pretty high going into it. And also, I still hadn't been like really hooked yet. Like, I was having fun with the show and having a good time watching it and just kind of seeing like, oh, this is nice. A show that's, good and solid, knows what it's doing. But season 3, I was like, all right, let's pick up the pace. I need to find an episode that I love. And season 3 did it. Season 3 is definitely just everything that I liked about Futurama, but better, and just stepping it all up in so many ways. Like I said, the wacky sci-fi concepts not only got better, but also they explore way more. And also, season 3 was funny. I started actually really laughing my ass off at several jokes. And then also, this season did what I knew the show would start doing, which is really tugging my heartstrings, which I love. I love when a show that's on the surface just a fun comedy delves into some deep, darker territory every now and then and really just, gets you emotional. And this season did it a couple times. Obviously, the big one, Luck of the Fryish, that one's one of the biggest moments that a lot of people talk about as being emotional. And while I like the episode overall, like I said with the IMDb thing, I wouldn't list that episode as one of the best episodes. One of the best moments, hands down. Best episodes? Not quite. However, we did find episodes, we meaning me, I finally found episodes this season that I loved. Parasite's Lost was the first episode where I went, yes, there we go. That was well done, Matt Groening. And then right after that, A Tale of Two Santas, just back-to-back bangers. I was like, oh, here we go. And it kind of continued throughout the season. Other episodes that I loved, Time Keeps on Slipping, Roswell That Ends Well, and then I think this one's generally considered the best episode. I kind of looked that up, Godfellas, which was definitely one of the best episodes. All of those episodes were fantastic. They made me laugh my ass off. They tugged at my heartstrings every now and then. They really had cool concepts and just delved super deep into them. Like, if I can describe season 1 as a show that's starting out and doesn't really know what it wants to be yet, season 2 being a show that it knows what it wants to be, season 3 is a show that's experimenting, that's really maturing and just going outside the box a bit more and having fun. And for that reason, like, I just had a great time with season 3. So season 3 of Futurama gets a cyan. Season 4. Alright, so season 3 was great. I was having a good time. Now I'm into the show. And season 4 is the last season before the show got canceled, which sucks. And I was always thinking, is it gonna be like a great season? Why would they cancel the show at like a great season? And it was a great season. It was a fantastic season, actually. It basically, again, like, just take everything I like in season 3 and do it even better. Like, this season was, in my opinion, the peak, where like the writers just really found a groove and they were just having such a great time. Like, almost every decision they made was just the right decision. They explored certain things that they had set up in the past. They had even cooler sci-fi concepts and they dove even deeper into them. We get an episode like Jurassic Park, which is another episode that I love, which has the whole dog moment that that got me. I was like, oh my god, no wonder people talk about that a lot. You also got big epic episodes that feel like payoffs to so many things with the Why of Fry. And then you also have the Farnsworth Paradox, which I thought was a fantastic episode. And then you got The Sting, which happens to be my favorite episode of the show. When I watched that episode, right away I went, oh my god, that was amazing. Like, it literally was everything that I love in a Futurama episode, where I can appreciate, really funny jokes and just making me laugh. I can also love an episode that has a really cool sci-fi concept and they just, go all out with it. But what really gets me is when you have both of those mixed together with a really powerful emotional core. And The Sting did it perfectly. And also what The Sting did great, which I also have really learned that I love, is I love when I'm watching something and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. I'm all along for the ride. And then suddenly it takes a turn. And I'm like, no, I don't know where this is headed. And I am just along for the journey. And that great, just fantastic. Season 4 also just had even less fat. Like by the time you reach season 3, there weren't many episodes that I'm just like, oh, that was okay. But season 4 almost had none of that. Just season 4 through and through was fantastic, and in my opinion has the best run of episodes the show ever had. From episode 7 of that season to 16, I have nothing but cyan episodes or above. Like just banger after banger. Every single episode, I'm like 5 in a row. There's no way this episode's gonna match the rest of them. And it did. And I'm just like, oh my god, they're just on a freaking roll. Just keep going, guys, keep going. The funny thing is, so this was the season where they got canceled, and so technically the devil's hands are idle things, playthings. I don't have the whole title written down there, but that episode was technically a finale, but you can kind of tell that they were hoping they'd come back. Like this wasn't really a series finale, and I'm glad, because overall that wasn't my favorite episode in the world, which would have disappointed me if that actually was the finale. Season 4, just the whole time I was watching it, I was kind of amazed. I was like, this is television. This is just great. So season 4 of Futurama, as you can probably tell, gets a blue. And now the show's been canceled, and they don't know what they're gonna do next, and that's why we get season 5. So season 5 is weird because it's not actually episodes, it's movies, and it's 4 TV movies that are split up into 4 parts each, making a 16 episode season, but it's 4 movies basically. Does this format work? Not really. Could it work? I don't know, but for Futurama, I don't think it did. The biggest problem I had with this season is that each movie, I kind of just felt like they didn't matter a whole lot. Bender's Big Score, without a doubt, is the best movie, and that's the only one that I would actually like want to rewatch. The other movies, just overall, I kind of got this sense of like, who cares? Like, I don't even know exactly what's going on here, and in a lot of ways, they just kind of feel like regular episodes that are then stretched out. And then they also had a weird problem where they would have it be like, okay, this is the story, but then just like change it suddenly, and it's something else now, and it's just not as good, or like the ending would have nothing to do with the first 3 parts that were built up. And also very often the parts would just kind of end, and it's like, all right, how do I rank that as an episode? Because it's not an episode, it's a part. And like, especially when it's like a part 1 of 4, it's like, oh my god, not a whole lot happened there. Also, the thing is, when I got into this show, I was wondering like, all right, am I gonna notice that the show is different now, that it was picked up several years later and it's on a different network and all that? Am I gonna notice? And for online, everyone agrees that the show is way better before it got canceled. Like usually the final 3 seasons are like, a lot of people like hate them in some ways, which I don't fully understand. And then for just regular everyday people that I've talked to who are fans of Futurama, they say they don't think there's much of a difference. For season 5, there is. It is not nearly as funny as it was. I can definitely tell the sense of humor is just not there. I feel like they're pulling a lot of just constant references, and that's where the comedy comes from, instead of it just being naturally funny. And also a fear of growth, just to like, you know, take chances with your characters. It just kind of feels like the characters are on autopilot a bit. You know, you just take their personalities, freeze frame them in this mode, and then just like push it more and more with like, all right, Bender's an asshole, so let's just make him a bigger asshole, instead of like, Bender's an asshole, maybe let's give him a heart of gold a little bit more, or just stuff like that, you know. But yeah, Bender's Big Score was definitely the best movie. That one actually I would say is like the Futurama movie. The writing was fantastic for that. I think one thing that season 5 has going for it is the writing throughout a movie. Like they have so much little setup and payoff that if you pay attention, like it's great. And Bender's Big Score is fantastic with that. Bender's Big Score also had a wonderful sci-fi stuff going on there with all kinds of wacky time travel and just, oh, great. But Bender's Big Score doesn't get like, oh, a big gold star for me, just because it did start off very slow, and I was very put off from the change in style of humor. Bender's Game would be my least favorite movie. That movie was just pointless. It was one of those things where I'm just like, what's this plot? Like, do the writers even really care about this plot? This just seems like so pointless, you know? Overall, season 5, definitely not as good as the seasons that came before it. I don't hate it or anything, and it's a little weird to even call it a season, but you know, I'm gonna. It was a little disappointing getting into season 5, and I was hoping that the show would bounce back. So, as you can probably tell, season 5 of Futurama gets a yellow. Not anything below that. I don't think it's bad or anything. There was nothing that like pissed me off, but it was disappointing and overall was kind of on the mediocre side. Season 6 of Futurama. So here we go. Season 6, I actually found to be ranked the least favorite season a lot on lists. And I was like, season 5 was not my favorite. So if we're gonna go into orange territory, or by God, maybe even red, I'm gonna be really sad. But overall, I've heard the show, you know, most people love the show. Even their weakest season, they still like. So I was counting on that not happening. the other weird thing is by the time we get to these final 2 seasons, they're split into parts, and it's kind of funny because each part is the length of season 1, 13 episodes. So I don't know if I wanted to rank the parts separate or just the season as a whole. I'll do both, but overall for this whole list right here, I'll just keep it to the whole package. So season 6, right away, I liked the first episode, and then after that, I wasn't having a great time. Like, I'm not getting pissed off or anything, but I was still running into the same problems I have with season 5 in terms of it's just not as funny, and the sci-fi concepts just aren't as good. And I was like, oh no, is this what the show's gonna be? And then the late Philip J. Fry happened, and that episode is one of my favorite episodes. Right away, I was like, oh my god, that was great. All right, but maybe that'll just be like a one-off. It wasn't. Like I said in season 4, where they just had a whole run of fantastic episodes, season 6 did that too. From episode 7 to, I would say, episode 14, just nothing but bangers back to back. Like, all of those episodes I really liked. And what's funny is this season is considered the worst for a lot of people. And a lot of these episodes I looked up, people don't list as amazing. And there's even episodes that people like that I don't like. Reincarnation especially. I do not like Reincarnation at all. That episode was actually my least favorite when I first watched it. That was the first episode where I went, I would not want to rewatch that one at all. I actually didn't like that episode. And that one's listed as a pretty high ranked episode. Or not a high rank, but like people like it, you know? So this was the really weird thing once I reached season 6 where I was like, my opinion is gonna be a little different. And I'm starting to find things that I like that people don't like. And it was weird. But overall, I totally think that they found their style again for the most part in this season, especially during that run. The style of humor was a lot better. I was laughing a lot. The sci-fi concepts, again, they're exploring it more. The characters are growing. There's just, they're trying more, they're experimenting more, and it just got better in my opinion. Like, even though it's a little different from the amazing run of season 4 and season 3, I still think season 6 found a groove. And even though it's a little disjointed of a season and it has my least favorite episode up to that point, I still think it had a great run of episodes, and in my opinion, just the writers found their new groove. They needed time to kind of get reacquainted because they hadn't really made the show for a while, and I'm sure they were struggling to get it picked up again. But season 6, I think people give it a bad rep. I had a really good time with season 6, so I'm gonna give season 6 a cyan. I'm sure when I rewatch the show, I'll probably appreciate 1 and 2 a lot more because now I totally see where things pay off, or just, you know, I prefer season 6 over 2 and 1. I would definitely rather rewatch that. That is my controversial pick. And then of course also for if I were to split the parts, part 1's definitely better than part 2. Part 1, even though it starts slow, has a fantastic run of episodes that lasts the rest of it. Part 2 is more consistent and has some good stuff, but overall just like it doesn't hook me as much. And then it also has my least favorite episode. All right, season 7, taking a swig. So here we go, the final season of Futurama. Now, season 6 did not disappoint me, and in fact kind of impressed me with some of its stuff. So I was like, all right, season 7, let's go. And it started off not very good. Again, I wouldn't say they're bad episodes, but just a lot of mediocre stuff going on here. And it was almost like they reverted back to the beginning of season 6, where I was like, this isn't funny, and they're just doing the same dumb things over and over again. And like, just the plot lines, I'm like, who cares about these plot lines? What's going on? And then they started picking up the pace a bit more. We started getting some better episodes here and there, but nothing that was hooking me yet. And by the time I finished part 1, I was like, all right, that was good, but like, I'm in the final season. It's always disappointing when the final season of something ends really badly, you know? I want things to end well. So I was like, all right, well, let's pick up the pace. Let's get to part 2. Beginning part 2, 40% Lead Belly is my least favorite episode of Futurama. I hated that episode, and it's really weird to explain why I hated that episode because I'm pretty sure not a single person who loves Futurama would say that episode is a bad episode. And the thing is, it technically isn't, but as I was watching it, immediately I was just kind of bored, and I was like, all right, this is kind of dumb, and I don't really care about the plot, and I don't really think it's that funny. Okay, all right, I guess it'll probably be a yellow, maybe even an orange. And the more and more I watched it, the more and more I was getting pissed off at how generic it was, and how like autopilot it felt, where like it felt like the writers just didn't care. The more and more I started thinking like, wait, why do I not? There's gotta be a reason. Wait, that's dumb. This is stupid. I started like actually analyzing why I found it generic and boring, and the more and more I started looking into it, the more and more I started getting pissed off, and I was like, this is dumb. What the hell? I know what the show's capable of. This is not it. And by the time I finished the episode, I was angry. I was bored, I was annoyed. I went on my phone, which I never do during watching something, and I was like, that was bad. I did not like that episode at all. So Well, we were off to a bad start with part 2, and right away I was like, oh no, the show's gonna end badly. And then again, some good episodes here and there, but then some not good stuff. Saturday Morning Fun Pit, I didn't like either. That episode kind of annoyed me, and I was like, oh shit. And then we reached As He Come Home. Now, I'm gonna be a little forgiving towards this episode, maybe because I was having a bad run, and finally I just reached like this breath of fresh air. I'm sure no one actually thinks this episode is great. I liked it a lot, and I was like, oh, thank God, that was a good episode. All right, we're back. From then on out, the season killed it, especially the final 3. Murder on the Planet Express happens to be my second favorite episode of Futurama. After I watched that episode, I went, that was everything I liked. If you want to watch an episode that is mind trippy and is just constantly full of twists, that's your episode right there. It's a perfect genre episode, and it plays with a lot of genres of movies that I really enjoy and parodies a lot of movies that I like. So I just loved that episode. And then Stenchability, I really like that one. It was a Dr. Zoidberg episode, which helped. And then finally I reached Meanwhile. Now Meanwhile, I knew was the official series finale, and I knew that is generally considered a great episode, and I had high expectations. And after the great run, I was like, let's finish this series off and this season off with a bang. And they did. They killed it with this finale. I really can't think of a better way to do a finale for Futurama, because it's a very delicate thing. Finales are really hard for TV shows, because the curse of a regular TV show, especially an episodic TV show, is that they're usually picked up based on just a simple premise. You have a pizza delivery boy who is accidentally transported 1,000 years in the future. He doesn't know where he is. He's with a bunch of aliens and future human beings, and he delivers stuff in space. And that's it. And I guess the growth of the show is him figuring himself out and figuring out relationships and figuring out how to move on from the life that he never had, or the life that he never really lived in the first place. And like, okay, cool. Where's the end game? You know, like, you can end it in all kinds of different ways, and especially when you're getting canceled constantly and you don't know when your show will actually end, it's hard to figure out a place where it's like, you know what, let's make the decision to have this happen finally, you know, this plot point or whatnot. I think they killed it with this episode. They did things that you can expect, but they also surprise you, which is really difficult. You know, I feel like finales in a lot of ways kind of have to do things expectedly, because if it's too different from the show that you've established, like a certain show I know of, it just turns people off. And it's like, all right, and it's fine for an episodic show to not end amazingly because it's episodic. I don't need the finale to be amazing. I just need great episodes. But it helps, because if I'm ever watching the whole show the whole way through, it helps to finish with a bang. And Meanwhile did it fantastically. It had a great sci-fi concept, and it actually had several where it just constantly was bouncing around, where I thought, oh, this is gonna be the episode, and then it switched it, and I went, oh, now this is the episode. Oh, and then it switched again. And it's an episode that, like, it wasn't afraid to just sit back sometimes and just let moments breathe. It's a finale. It knows that the people who are watching it love the characters and love the show, and we're invested in this, so it's okay to not have to have just constant jokes, constant firings here and there, bop, 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 bop. No, sometimes just let things breathe and let things be emotional, because by God, was a finale emotional. So season 7 was a very disjointed season and had almost every color under the sun in terms of episodes. I can say that I liked it. If I have to summarize it all, I think it's still a good season. It's not one of the best seasons of the show, but I think in the end, it ending well definitely paid off. I think if you switched it around and the season began really well, but then ended terribly, I might not like it as much. I prefer things to end well, and season 7 did. So season 7 gets a green. And if I had split up the parts, they're both kind of even. I kind of have to lean towards part 2 being better. They're both green, obviously. Part 2, I'd probably lean towards a little bit more, just because I get actual banger episodes. Part 1 doesn't really have anything that like really stood out to me, but it is definitely more consistent than part 2. So there you have it, my official seasons rankings. If I had to actually list them in order, at the bottom, season 5. Next would be season 7, then season 1, then season 2. At number 3 is season 6. And then number 2 is season 3, and then definitely my blue season, the season that honestly is probably half the reason I'm making this video in the first place, season 4. It is sad because I'm wondering what the show would have been like if it wasn't canceled at its prime. In my opinion, the writers really found their groove and just knew what they were doing with season 4. Despite all of the obstacles that they were thrown at, they put together a great show, and a show that, despite the fact that it does have its ups and downs, it ended well, and they really found a way to reinvent themselves a couple times, which is more than most things can do. Most of the time there's a very clear cut rise and fall, and a lot of people like to say that's Futurama. Oh, it rose up and then after 4, I don't think so. I definitely think it was better before it got canceled, but there's still a lot of great stuff in the second half. And I'm saying that as someone who's a new fan, who's also very hypercritical with shows and especially adult cartoons, because I'm a big Family Guy fan, and I started watching that when I was a kid, and that is the definition of a show that's a... Futurama doesn't do that. If you are wondering about watching Futurama, I would definitely highly recommend watching it, and definitely watch it in order. A lot of it pays off better if you watch it in order. So that is it for my rankings of the Futurama seasons. I hope you all enjoyed it. Comment below what you would rank the seasons using my color rankings, and whether or not you agree with me in terms of the fact that the show, didn't actually have a total downfall, or maybe I'm full of shit and, but there we go. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.